The Heavy class. In the finals, the Heavy class is the largest class, both in hitbox, destructive capabilities, and health. Being a little over 6'3", wow. Okay, being a little over 6'3", the Heavy is a very tall class. This allows them to vault or mantle on higher surfaces. It allows them to get better leverage on the cash box to knock it over. It allows them to do a lot of things that the other classes can't do. But the thing that you will see most commonly is the Heavy can break everything. You want to blow through walls consistently, use Charge and Slam, use a Sledgehammer, use the MGL. There's so many ways the Heavy can be destructive, but they're also very defensive. Having the barricades, the mesh shield, and the dome shield. These are all used to provide protection to yourself and teammates. They also have the heal ball, which can help you sustain your teammates and yourself, but it is a slower form of healing than the other forms of healing in the game. So think of the Heavy as the destructive protector, which sounds oxymoronic, but it isn't. Their goal is to create enough chaos while also being a safe bubble where they can survive that chaos that the other Heavies and they are creating themselves. So we're going to get into the weapons. The Heavy class has a total of 12 weapons. Of these weapons, the most prominent ones you will see the most often and are the easiest to get into are the M60 and the Sledgehammer. You will start with both these weapons unlocked, and therefore you'll see them a lot. But if we go over the rest, we're going to have the 50 Akimbos, Deagles, just dual Deagles, it's very simple. We're going to have the BFR Titan, think of it as a big revolver. The Flamethrower, it's a flamethrower. The KS-23 is a slug shotgun that shoots slugs. It's very accurate, but it doesn't have an ADS and it has a fairly slow fire rate. The Lewis gun is a 47 round mag LMG, meaning it has a very high fire rate, it has very low damage, but it puts out consistent bullet after bullet. Then we're gonna have the minigun. It's a minigun, 250 rounds, you just spray and hope it hits something. Then we're gonna have the M60, which I already discussed. It's very similar to the Lewis, has a higher fire rate, it has more rounds, but does less damage per bullet. Then we're gonna have the MGL-32. This is one of the more unique weapons in the game, as it has to bounce before it can explode. It's a grenade launcher, but you shoot it, it bounces off something, and then explodes. Then we're gonna have the SA-1216. It's a 4x4 shotgun, so you shoot 4, then you switch the chamber, then you shoot 4 more. Shack 50 fires 2 bullets at once, but bilaterally, meaning that you'll have one on the right, one on the left, but no bullet coming directly out of the middle. Then we'll have the Sledgehammer. It's a sledgehammer, you hit things, they die. They break, explode, whatever. Then we have the Spear. It's a bit more of a ranged weapon, the Sledgehammer. It kind of pokes farther, and its right click does a 360. Specializations, we're gonna have Charge and Slam. You basically turn yourself into a wrecking ball. You can run through things, you do massive damage if you hit someone, and then at the end, or even at the beginning, you can jump and you'll do a slam. The higher up you are, the more damage the slam does. Then we're gonna have the Goo Gun. The Goo Gun is a very simple specialization. You shoot balls of goo. These balls of goo are basically little bits of cover that can also act as something to climb on top of. It's very wonky, and this is probably the least refined of all the specializations. Then we're gonna have the mesh shield. It's a big shield. Think of it as a shield from Overwatch, kind of a Reinhardt shield. Then we're gonna have the winch claw, similar to Overwatch's Roadhog, where you basically can grab someone and pull them in. This pairs very well with the close range weapons that can use the opportunity of close range to just absolutely obliterate opponents. We're gonna go over gadgets. Heavy has a lot of gadgets, but it shares a few. So if it shares them, I'm gonna skip them and come back to them in a later video. The first one is Anti-Gravity Cube. This is a cube that, when you throw it down, creates a circular, kind of cylindrical field of gravity that goes the opposite way of gravity. So it'll force everything up. This can be cash boxes, pieces of rubble, players, mines, just things like that. It'll push it up. Which can be very useful for moving the cash box, especially since when it's in the air, nothing has friction. Next up, we're gonna have the barricade. The barricade is a very old-fashioned gadget done in an interesting way. It has 5 separate panels that each have their own HP, but it takes barely any damage from any form of bullets. It takes damage from explosives, it takes a lot of damage from Sledgehammer and Charge and Slam, which will instantly break it, and it's just a very solid thing for putting something down and protecting yourself or your teammates. Then we're gonna have C4. It's C4. Remote detonable explosives. Cool. Dome shield is pretty simple. It basically creates a force field around you that blocks all bullets. It's a sphere shape and it's pretty good. Then we're gonna have the healing emitter. The healing emitter is also known as the healing ball or chuck. You place it on the ground and after about a second it'll activate and heal any teammates within its radius. It does a slower form of healing, but this healing is infinite until it breaks, so it can be strong in certain situations or team compositions. Then we're gonna have the Pyromine. The Pyromine is very simple. It's a mine. When you step on it, it explodes and releases fire, sets everything on fire, everything goes burn burn. Then we're gonna have RPG. It's an RPG. You shoot a grenade, it explodes, it does ridiculous damage, crazy destruction, all of that. Then we're gonna have the lock bolt. The lock bolt is a very interesting idea. It basically chains opponents within a certain radius. It can be broken if you shoot the actual point it's locked onto, but this can also pull things. So if you shoot it onto something, pick up that thing, you can drag the cash box around, you can drag other players around. It's very interesting idea done very well. If you're curious, the current meta for heavy is Shack, Winch, Dome Shield, RPG, and C4. You can also switch out C4 for a lot of different things, anti-grav, barricade, or maybe a grenade or pyromine, depending on what your team needs. Heavy also has a few unique things about its weapons. If you're looking for a longer range weapon, the BFR Titan or 50 Akimbos, you could also use the Lewis gun if you want a faster firing weapon. If you want a really up close and personal weapon, you use the Sledgehammer Flamethrower. These two are very good at getting up close in their face and dealing tons of damage. If you are looking for something that will exterminate lights, you have the SA-1216 or the Flamethrower. If you're looking for something that just does crazy damage output consistently and you don't honestly have to aim all that much for, you can go with the SA-1216 or the Shack 50. Both shoot fairly accurately while doing tons of damage, but their main limitation will be range. If you're looking for something that just puts out tons of bullets, the M60, the Lewis gun, and the minigun are all very high fired. Heavy has a bit of everything, and that's why it's probably the most balanced class in the game right now, because it kind of just fits whatever playstyle you want. Its only issue is its only movement ability is anti-grav cube, which really isn't that great of a movement, and it's kind of slow and only moves you upwards. It can't really move you forward or anything. So while on paper, Heavy may look like their entire job is just absorb damage, heal, do some destruction, Heavy plays very differently from a typical tank role. Because in a typical tank role, you're just there to absorb damage. Heavy doesn't act like that most of the time. In certain ways you play it, it can. If you're using mesh shield, dome, barricades, and an up-close weapon, it can work that way. But in general, Heavy is just a different form of damage dealer. It's something that can just create tons of chaos and then create a bubble where their teammates themselves can stay safe while also still doing tons of damage. Heavy seems overpowered on paper if you think about that, but in actuality, Heavy's time to kill on their weapons is much slower. Their abilities are normally a little weaker, but this is balanced out by having more health and a larger hitbox. Both of those two things kind of make Heavy's advantages a little more balanced, because in theory, Heavy should be stupidly broken. But because it has such a large hitbox and it has the slowest health regeneration at 10 seconds, you really don't need to worry about heavies if you play against them right. They're not going to outrun you, and they're pretty noticeable, and they don't really have anything to hide themselves very well. Now, as someone who's made Heavy for years, Heavy has had a crazy downfall, but it's been needed. This is a very, very nerf state of Heavy. Initially, Heavy regen faster. They had nukes that would one-shot entire teams. RPG would one-tap mediums and lights. It's been significantly nerfed and toned down since the beginning of the game, but it's been needed. This class was ridiculously broken on launch, and it's slowly become more and more balanced, and it's probably in its best state ever right now, where you want a Heavy on your team because it provides a lot of supportive utility, it provides a lot of just space creation, but it's also not a must pick. You could run triple medium, you could run triple light, but the thing that balances Heavy out is it doesn't have that ability. It doesn't have the ability to move, it doesn't have the ability to quickly get somewhere. So even though it can create space, it can create so much chaos, it can have so much health, it can heal, it can do all of that, you can't run triple Heavy because you just can't get anywhere fast enough. And if you do take damage, well, now you're sidelined for probably 10 seconds if you take enough damage. And Heavy just has so many weaknesses that mean that it's really the only single class where you need other classes to support it. So if you're planning on playing Heavy in ranked or other things like it, you really want a medium and a light, or two mediums or two lights, something that will help you get places and allow you to do your destructive chaos, and then they'll allow you to help them when they need it. Mediums are best for this because of Heal Beam, just consistently putting out a good source of heals and being able to move with you. Light works because of Gateway and Healing Emitter. Both of those just do so much for the Heavy. But overall, Heavy will normally be your IGL, it will normally be your signal caller, the person you rely on to make the big momentum plays and keep the gameplay moving, while the other classes might not be able to do that as well because they can't sustain themselves as well. Heavy has the ability to turn around, drop a C4, shoot it with an RPG, and nearly one tap a medium. No other class can really do that consistently. It has the ability to break through walls, create space, move the cash box. It's everything you could really want, except for movement. That's why it needs the other classes. Without the other classes, heavy really isn't all that good. But it creates so much space that a light can flank around and get a free kill. It creates so much damage and destruction that it can just make it really hard for the enemies to organize themselves. A good heavy doesn't actually get most of the kills. They create so much chaos and so much space and push the enemy team so hard into an area they don't want to be in, or they drop the cash out well enough and just force the enemy team where they don't want to be, and it allows their teammates to get massive damage, to get picks. So a typical heavy KD will actually be probably about 1-0. Mine is a little higher since I play heavy a little more and I know exactly how to play around it. But when you play heavy at first, you're going to notice your kills go down. That is a component of three things. You're not getting to places as fast. That's probably the biggest one actually. And you do less damage. So even though that this light is a half your health, if even that, you're going to not be able to do as much damage to them as fast. And so you might lose those head-on-head duels if you miss enough shots. Now, in theory, heavy should beat light in every head-on-head, no-miss duel. The issue is lights are tricky. They can start invis and get the first few shots. They can dash away, they can grapple above you. They have their ways of counteracting you. You just need to know exactly what you're doing and how to beat that. Heavy is probably the class I would least recommend to new players. Despite maybe being the strongest right now, it takes so much in-game knowledge, it takes so much skill. You can't really be an inconsistent heavy and be a good heavy because of what is required for a heavy. Heavies just have to be consistent, they have to be the IGL, they have to know what's happening. Most heavies, in fact, get good enough they know where the cash box is going to spawn before it spawns. I've gotten pretty good at this, and it really helps the team, because if I'm the IGL and I know where the cash box is going to spawn, or I can force a cash box to spawn somewhere, then we can play off of that and we can force the cash boxes we want. This is just such a game changer, and with heavy's other smaller abilities, having better leverage on knocking over the cash out, having the just ability to create infinite space if used properly, destroy the bridge on soul, just things like that, it makes heavy so strong sometimes. Well, if it isn't properly supported, heavy is by far the weakest class.